Hello and welcome to second day of ARTtech seminar at Assembly 2019. My name is Natasha and I will be a host for today. So without further ado, since we have a really amazing line of speakers and topics prepared for you, we will straight away hop on with the topic of gamers' health. Timo Kettunen is published author and Master of Science in Exercise Medicine. He's also a founder of BonoHealth company. Currently, he's developing an AI-driven personal trainer for esports. Please welcome Timo.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all, and of course all the millions of YouTube viewers out there. It's my pleasure to be here and talk to you a little bit about gamer health. This would be quite a short one-on-one introduction to the topic, but let's see what we can find here. Few words of myself. Of course, the most important things already came up with Natasha. Thank you for that. But I would like to emphasize two things. I've been a gamer for 30 years. And because I'm a little bit older than the current esports players, I kind of missed the golden era of competitive gaming. But I started my gaming career with Command & Conquer and Doom. So basically, I've been into Finland's first Doom LAN in, I think it's 1994 or something, in Iisalmi. But Jonnet ei muista. Anyway. And I also have a son who's wannabe gamer, who wants to be the next Counter-Strike championship, of course. And the one reason why I'm actually speaking of gamer health is that my son, well, he's playing a lot, and by a lot, I mean a lot. And of course, when a dad says that, hey, you should do something else, he's just saying the typical Finnish word, älä rage, don't rage. But he's actually looking for YouTube streamers, health influencers. And when they say that you should actually start training or something, it's like a magic words for little kids. And they're like always doing what people are saying. If they say in YouTube, put cinnamon on your nose, they will do it. Because that's the way how it goes. But what happened, that he sat a lot. He sat through nights, he played, and then someone said in YouTube that, hey, you should start to go to gym. So he went, and he overtrained, and now he has a small fracture in his spinal vertebrae. So it didn't go well. So this is one actually key thing why we need gamer health. And the other thing is the perception of esports, this whole industry. And I've been speaking a lot with teams and coaches and sponsors lately, and actually everyone agrees that the whole image of this field is seen kind of as shady. Healthy sponsors are not very keen come to business. They're quite basically afraid of the image because current players, there are a lot of not so healthy sponsors, and the image of whole esports is like people are sitting on their cellars and eating pizza and playing World of Warcraft, and well, that might be true actually, but it's still that you know what I'm saying here, and the many sponsors have been told that it would be nice if the image would be more healthier, and that's actually one thing what we also would like to achieve with our product and with what we are doing. But there's a lot to be done, yeah. A few words about gamer health science. Well, basically, there isn't any. There have been few publications of esports, and of course there are more and more coming every day. But when we compare to the other sports or other health science, it's basically nothing. But I really hope that because this whole industry is now blooming, I think this is a start of a golden era if you see what all is happening in global. They are building esports arenas and everything. So basically there have to be consequences that there will be, of course, also gamer science. But basically if we look about health science and other sports and so on, I have to tell that I also have been coaching with athletes and some musicians. And it's actually quite same, but there are some principles that differs, and I will talk about a few key points later about those. But basically, all physical exercise and avoid sitting and so on will lead to better health. So basically, I might even say that we don't need that much gamer health science because we already have so much health science. We don't need to do that all again. And I think it might be even futile, actually, to start study a lot of esports because all the physiological, neurological, metabolical, also of those principles are already known. But what's actually bigger problem in concerning gamer health is the lack of sport analysis and structure. Because if you take every other sport, there are like athletes' paths. When kids are starting to, do some sport, maybe it's a hobby, later it will become a professional. There are certain paths and principles that you need to follow. There are certain, sensitivity periods in physical development that you need to follow, but there aren't any in esports industry. It's totally, clustered and shattered. People don't know how to coach, how to make this healthier, and that's partially, of course, the reason is that there are a lack of the gamer health science, but this is something actually that need to be done, and I think it need to be done quite soon, because, well, I've seen that there are so many new esport congresses and conferences and events, happening all over the world, and more and more of those are a business or health congresses. They're not just tournaments or people playing, but we are going towards the situation that the awareness is raising, and that's actually good. But I think coaches and maybe colleges and professors or whatever should collaborate more, because there are no currently any coherent ways or paths how could we actually proceed towards what I just said. And that's actually quite important, because the sport analysis is the base of SAED principle, SAID principle. And this is something what we actually need if we want to train professional athletes. And this means specific adaptations to imposed demands. And it actually means that if you are, for example, a rock climber, if you do pull-ups, you get better only doing pull-ups. It won't transfer to rock climbing. And that's actually something what many people don't understand when they are coaching esports or professional players. They just think that if we just do some aerobic training or weightlifting or whatever, of course those are good things and they should be done. But there still, Mike, that some of the transfer effects to actual performance would be negative. For example, just a couple of days ago, someone asked me that, could I improve my neural system and my reflexes if I just punch boxing bag or boxing ball, and if I just concentrate on that? And I said probably not, because it's not the movement, it's not the neural pattern, what are you doing during your playing. And that's actually something that we should take into account. And I think this progression in esports should be something like this. And if you read the list through, you see it's basically quite basic stuff. You start from basic, and then you move to advanced. It means that, of course, you can't have full reflexes from the beginning. You have to start gradually, and from slow to fast. I know because many esports players are teenagers. They feel that they are omnipotent. They can do everything. That the world won't be a problem. They can be a professional players right away if you ask from them. But it doesn't work like that. So basically, you have to start from slow training and then gradually move to fast training. Or if you talk about load, and load is I mean that how long are you going to play per session? What your playing time is per session. And of course, if you ask pretty much from anyone who's playing, they said, yeah, I just played like 10 hours without breaks. And I know that if you go downstairs, there will be people who came here Thursday and next day when they go out or stand up would be like Sunday. So that's actually one problem here. You got so much load to your body that it starts to be quite harmful. And then from bilaterally to unilaterally, basically it means that you have to train your nervous system and your body first bilaterally. It means that you use your both hands, which actually it is how you do it. You can't play with one hand. But you could probably improve your performance just sometimes trying unilateral performances. And probably I think the most important thing here is this overload principle. And shortly it means that you gradually increase your volume or your resistance or your playing time or whatever. And at some point you take a light weight. It's like if you go to gym, you can't just increase your weight constantly. You have to unload, deload your training at some point. And that's actually quite important to your nervous system. And if you play from week after week after week and never, keep those light weeks with playing, that will load your nervous system and your body quite much. And that will be a problem at some point in the future. And of course, if you are like 16 years old, you recover very fast. You actually can do that in time, but after few months or few years, you know what happens? Burnout. And it's not that uncommon that professional players have a burnout in their 20s. And that's actually something that is related to this, that you train your nervous system too much. So, few key points here, and of course, because I don't have that much time, this is like a very fast breakthrough, but let's see what we can find here. First, it's a prolonged sitting. Basically, this is very harmful to your body, and you know that when you play games, you sit a lot. You can sit. Well, if I'm honest, I once sat 22 hours in a row because I played Dragon Age and I couldn't just, make a pause. I don't even remember did I eat, but hey, that's the way it goes. I know why people are sitting. You just can't. You can't put multiplayer on pause. I know that, but basically, right after you sit down, your body starts some negative effects in your metabolism. There will be some damage in your blood vessels and your nervous system. Of course, in your muscles, you are not using your muscles whole day. And if you are sitting every day, like 9 to 10 hours, and that actually could be also something that non-esports players or just regular workers do in their all-day job. They sit in a car or in train, and then they go to work, and then they sit more, and then they go to lunch, and they sit more, and so on. And then they go to home and sit on sofa and watch television. So basically, sitting is bad for everyone, but in esports it's kind of emphasize the whole thing that you sit way too much, and that's something we should do. And actually, it goes also for concentration and focus. If you would keep micro breaks once in a while, it don't need to be more than from 1 to 5 minutes that you think something else than game. You just take few steps, maybe go outside, eat an apple or something, and that will actually do a lot. There were one study, not related to esports, but it was called exercise snacking, that you did eat snack, but you exercise for a snack. So basically, they found out that if people, regular workers, they were office workers, if they just walked from them 10 to 15 minutes per day during their work day before lunch, all of their metabolism, insulin resistance, and different kind of, enzyme activities, they raised up, they increased. So basically, it could be that if you, during the play, walked only 15 minutes per day outside, that would actually increase a lot your health. Well, the other thing is posture, because I talked about this sport analysis. And if you understand gaming, you sit hands on your computer. So you sit hands extended in front of you. And that basically means that you are overusing your hand and arm muscles and your chest muscles and all the muscles in your neck and upper back are actually stretching all the time. And if you are playing 10 hours and you are in that kind of position, that will lead to some serious muscle asymmetries, and that will lead to back pains and neck pains and so on. And that super cool $1,000 gaming chair won't fix that. It's in your posture and it's purely muscle imbalance. And that's something that you could actually fix on gym. But if you don't know where the problem is, you just go there and start to do something, you can actually make it worse. And that's actually the posture, if your whole posture is a little bit collapsed. And basically, I'm going to show you that if I'm a little bit collapsed, and most gamers are, you can't lift your hands. They stop here. And if I correct my posture, you can actually lift them much more higher. And that will actually reflect your whole gaming performance. If you are in this position and you can't lift your hand, you don't need, but they are very tight when you're playing. And that actually leads to third key point, which is breathing. And if your posture is like this, I've been seeing this also a lot with musicians, you can't breathe properly. You can't breathe, but when you inhale, all the air leaves here in upper positions on your lungs. And that's very light breathing. And if you are gaming a lot, and I assume that many people don't have good air condition, and of course the machines are causing heat, and there might be quite warm in the room. And if you can't breathe properly here in your bottom of your lungs, you get very tired. You get very anxious, and you get fatigued. And that's also one problem. If you want to keep your focus, for someone it only needs that you start to breathe properly. It's not much, but it's something you have used to because you have, collapsed posture and you breathe like, and you don't actually exhale all the carbon dioxide what your body produces. So basically that can lead to dizziness. And of course that will affect your focus and mental and neural performance. And I already talked about a little bit of this, and this is probably the most important reason why people, professional gamers, or whoever is having a burnout, because they can't recover from their, neural load. It's kind of the same kind of situation if you have like little kids and hard work and you try to train. You go to gym or running and you think about that, yeah, this is my, counterbalance. I feel great when I'm running. But the body, it just understands that there are different kind of stress factors coming. Running is a stress, gym is a stress, work is a stress, having little kids, well, that's a lot of stress, and so on. So basically, there's just different kind of stress factors coming. And if you are a young player, you might have school, you have nagging parents who are saying that you have to go to school, you have to sleep sometimes, and blah, blah, blah. And then you need to play a lot. Your team members are, pushing that, hey, you have to train harder. And when you actually, at that point, you should, unload your training, you should downgrade all of that, neural load, what you achieve during the training. Most of the people will actually ramp it up because they thought that they think that they have to push it harder. And the younger you are, the faster you actually recover. You can actually recover in a few hours or a few days. But if you never unload or give time for recovering to your body, in week by week, month by month, it will the stress will pile to your system. And someday you are just like, oh shit, I can't stand this. I'm gonna drop everything. Screw this, I'm going home. And that's actually bad thing for teams because the whole team is as strong as the weakest link. And if you don't have, spare players or so on, and one day someone is saying, yeah, I'm out, then what happens to team? It could be actually a very bad situation. And of course also muscle and joint recovery. Gamers are, I already told about posture and so on, but gamers are using a lot of their hands. I think, many people are saying that esports is not a sport. You can't compare esports players to athletes, and that might be true. You don't need that kind of stamina that, for example, you need in running or in track and field or ice hockey especially or skiing, but you are overusing your hands and your muscles, and the same principles will work here. You should have some kind of recovery, and I bet that if I asked from esports teams and players globally that how many of you are, for example, taking regular, massages, they are probably pretty much 100% says no, that I'm not. And that's a small thing, but it's just something that people don't get it. And it's actually quite, well, it's funny and it's sad because, for example, I had this workshop with musicians, and they were actually professional musicians. They play in city orchestra. And they were like, yeah, we just train and train and train. And one said that actually I can't lift my hand, and so I needed to, train a whole new position for my instrument. And one just said, yeah, my fingers are not working, so I have to, train harder. So I actually managed to fix many of those problems just by changing a little bit of ergonomics and just giving some manipulation. And they were like, what the hell did you just do? Because now I can play like much faster and my fingers are working, but you just did something for 5 minutes. And I said, yeah, but how many of those 5 minutes sessions have you taken in your history for recovery? And the ones I said like, well, none. I actually never asked from anyone. So I don't know if it's a lack of knowledge or what it is, but it's actually a common problem. People don't understand that sometimes it's so small effort that you have to do that you can actually perform better. And if you are performing in certain level, you kind of get used to it. Okay, this is my level, this is something I can manage, and this is something I will do the rest of my life. And I've seen so many coaches, good coaches, who actually have changed the professional athletes' training programs, and they have, unlocked the training, increased some sleep, and make some little nutrition choices. And those professional athletes who have been might already have been in Finland in the top 3 on some sports, are like after the small changes, that what happened? I thought I was in my top performance, but I have never felt so good. And those changes have been really small. And that's actually something that we could actually do also for esports players. Okay, this is a topic that I could actually talk about hours, but this is also almost purely for neurofeedback. But I have seen so many gamers, young ones and older ones, and pretty much 90% of those have smashed a mouse or a keyboard at some point, because many people can't stand stress. My son played a few days ago Minecraft, and I started to listen. It was a night, and I kind of wake up because the cursing became to hear from his room, and I went, what the hell are you screaming here? I just died and lost all my loot or something. And it's just a game, just relax. And that's something that professional players actually should train a lot. And this is the thing that actually separates the best ones. Because if you are in top level of sports, basically physically we all there are kind of in same level. The differences are so small that you can't usually compare the professionals. But this is what actually separates them. Whoever can actually performance under stress, give the best, are usually the winner. And if you, for example, Usain Bolt, when he won everything, he was just laughing during the running, because he know that he was the best. And he didn't have any of these problems. He could performance under stress. And there are actually few things that you could do. For example, the science has proved that, for example, if you squeeze a small soft ball a couple of minutes it's in your left hand before you start your performance or whatever you're doing, you can actually kind of reset your neural patterns, and it helps you concentrate more. And these are the small tricks that, for example, track and field athletes or so are using in Olympics. And I think there is lots of things that you could actually done also in esports scene, that you could actually improve the performance under stress. I was once watching, at Kuopio, there is once in a while a violin competition for young violinists. And I don't remember how many violinists there were, but I say 6 or something. And for every one of those, there were a 2-hour time slot with orchestra and conductor. So they could train and look their competition, piece, that if there is any problem in any parts, they could practice that. And pretty much everyone were like, they said to conductor, yeah, there's this one part I can't play it through, so can we check it out? And they all used their 2 hours, except one. And he went to stage, and this was the practice a lot. And they played the song once, And after that, the conductor asked, okay, is there any different difficult parts or something you would like to, make better or check it out? And the guy said, no, I'm fine. I know my song. And they were like, really? You have 2 hours. Do you understand? You have 2 hours. And like, I know my shit. And he won. He won the whole competition. But he handled it. He didn't feel any stress. He knew he's the best, and he didn't lose it during the actual performance. So that was actually a very good, example of how you can do it under stress. And of course, it could have been, some psychological advance, because all the other competitors see that, okay, that must be really good, because he didn't even practice it. And that's something you can actually do for other teams if you are in competition. Okay, this is two kind of medical terms, adaptive neurogenesis. Basically, this means that our brains are changing constantly. Whatever we are feeling, if we get depressed, that's neurogenesis, because our brains are adapting to situation. If we fell in love, there's happening things in our brains. But if we are playing day after day, of course there are happening some adaptive things in our brains. But if we never recover or give any different kind of simulation to our brains, it will eventually adapt only to do one thing. And if we still have, recovery issues, and if we have only one kind of training, this will be a problem. And it could actually cause even depression or different kind of stressful things. But the thing is, I just want to tell here that the gaming will change our brains, and if we can't, make it, if we don't have different kind of adaptive training or additional training, we might lead ourselves to a situation that our brains are not functioning anymore how they should be during the gaming. And of course, I think this is actually the most important one, because the general health and coping here means that the way you can manage your life. And the big thing with esports professional players is that they are actually quite young. They can be something from 14 years old, and they are still developing. They are still, their brains and cognition and moral and everything, the perception of the world is developing. So if you take a very young teenager and throw it to the competitive environment, he actually needs not only coach, but a father or a mother figure that can tell him how to cope in life. And if you are one of your sensitive periods in very stressful environments, it will leave a mark. It will actually affect to your health, and that's something we should be very worried about. And that's a funny thing, because health should never come last. But it's way too often the case that if you ask from athlete that what have you done, he or she can say pretty much everything, but I haven't tried that healthy and nutrition plan yet. So if you ask about someone who wants to lose their weight or manage their health, they are looking for magic bullets. They are watching TV shop, and they are always trying to look some speed roads that they could achieve their performance or whatever they are achieving faster. And that's also a story here in esports. And I don't know how many years we have had professional teams, maybe 2 or 3. And well, of course longer, but in this modern situation. And just now, the top teams have found out that, hey, they should hire personal trainers or chefs or mental coaches. And that's kind of sad that if everyone had understood that a couple of years ago, we didn't have these problems now. And then that's something that actually applies to everywhere, that health usually comes last, or healthy choices. And, well, that was pretty much it. The 101 of the gamer health, so thank you. If you have any questions, I have a few minutes here.
Any questions? Yes, you.
Thank you for. Is that on? There it is. Okay. Thank you for a very enlightening talk. Maybe not some questions, but some thoughts. It seems to me like maybe you've thought of this, that part of changing the culture of training esports might be changing the mindset of the gamers themselves, because I'm not sure they always see themselves as athletes in the sense of a physical athlete. So part of it is perhaps setting a baseline or changing perception that they are indeed athletes, and as such, there's some structures that need to be put in place that are foundational that then you build on that as a scaffolding.
Yeah, that's true. And I think we should always take also, parents into this. And I think many parents just don't understand what's happening there. And that's also, we should raise the awareness of moms and dads, that this can be actually your son's or daughter's new career, and you should give support, not just nag that do something else. But in same time, we should also try to bring the health information to families. That of course it's not good thing just play, but it could be in competitive sports, and it could be at least in some level to be compared in for example track and field or some other better hobby.
Right, and I agree. And my second thought, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm a psychologist who works at an aerospace university, and a lot of the problems that gamers have in terms of health are the same problems that pilots have.
Yeah.
Long sitting, detailed work, high level of stress, concentration skills. And I think there might be, but the structure in terms of training for pilots in performance is very set and very, very much in place.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you thought about some lessons learned that could be applied from perhaps that domain into gamer health.
That's actually a very good point. I haven't talked about that. And as I said, I have compared esports players to musicians, but that's actually also very good comparison. That if you happen to have any material, I would really like to see.
All right. Do we have more questions?
Hello. So I was quite intrigued by your presentation because I saw a lot of parallelism with sports that are more intimately involved in, like skateboarding.
Yeah.
The skateboarding is funny in the sense that until recently, and we're talking about 5 to 6 years, no one thought skateboarding as a sport.
Yeah.
No one thought that it would be or should be taken seriously. It's just something you do for fun. It's a lifestyle. It's not something you do seriously. It's not about coaching and, teams and gold medals and stuff like that. Competitions were really informal and just for fun. Rules were stretched midway of the competitions just because it was fun. And everybody agreed to that. Okay, that guy got to try that last trick for 5 tries because it was so amazing that everybody wanted him to get it. And maybe he was scored for it, maybe not, but he doesn't care. It's all for fun. And then came the Olympics. And everything changed, and the issue was that all my years skateboarding, I noticed that that people don't stretch, they don't warm up, they don't have any practice routines, they just come around and hang around and skate, and that's that. But then when they saw the level that you need to be able to go to the Olympics, everybody was like, just a few people in the world can be so consistent and so highly skilled that they can do that. And it took it like up there.
Yeah.
And that was something that I noticed in that talk, like gaming was just for fun, just something you do because it's, and then suddenly everything changed.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, it's not unique to esports in that sense, that sometimes you take something that no one, takes seriously, and you notice the level difference. You need coaches, you need practice routines, and you need your health to really be able to perform on that level. So, yeah, and your, comparison to musicians, I'm a hobby musician, so I've noticed those things too. Like having to really stretch before playing, and more I play, more I need to prepare for every, session that I'm doing, even if I'm just a hobbyist and I'm not taking it really seriously. It's just like, so I was really intrigued, and I want to thank you for that and give you that piece from the skateboarding, just to, maybe you find something from there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's actually a good observation, and of course there are probably many things in different subcultures, that I haven't noticed yet. But I think there's actually, if I understood it right, it's actually a good example that people are just, they did something and they thought that they are in top level, but then they weren't. And so basically in esports, we are not yet reached that actual, top level, what we could actually reach.
Comment here as well. This pretty much applies to any discipline, to be honest. As a game developer and with my colleagues who are creating games, it's necessary, of course, to have the balance, physical and mental ability to perform your best. Any other comments or questions from the audience? No? All right. Thank you very much, Timo.
Thank you.